Shadows and Freedom of the Forbidden Love Story between Elias and Clara Louisiana, 1841. Please let us know which country you are watching from and what time it is when you watch. You can leave this information in the comment section. If you like the clip, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed yet. In the humid lowlands of southern Louisiana, along the winding bayous near the Mississippi River, stood the Hartwell plantation. Its white columned house rose above fields of sugar cane that stretched under a relentless sun. The year was 1841. Cotton and cane ruled the land, and with them, the lives of hundreds of enslaved people. Among them was Elias. He was a tall man in his mid-twenties, with strong shoulders and quiet eyes the color of dark earth. Born on the plantation, he had learned early to keep his head down and his thoughts hidden. He worked the fields by day and, when the overseers allowed, repaired tools and tended the horses at night. He spoke little, but when he did, his voice carried a low, steady calm that somehow made the air feel less heavy. In the big house lived Clara Hartwell, the only daughter of the plantation's master. She was 19, fair-skinned, with light brown hair usually pinned up in the fashion of the day and grey eyes that noticed more than she was supposed to. Her father believed the world was ordered as God intended. White owners above, black laborious below. Clara had been raised on that belief, yet something in her had always resisted it. She read the few books she could find, listened to the distant singing from the quarters at night, and felt a quiet unease she could not name. Their paths crossed properly one spring afternoon when Clara's horse threw a shoe on a ride near the lower fields. Elias was sent to help. He knelt in the dust, working the shoe back into place with practiced hands while she held the reins. When he finished, he looked up once, briefly, and their eyes met. No words passed between them that day beyond the necessary ones, but something shifted. Over the following months, small moments accumulated. Clara began walking the edges of the fields more often than her mother liked. Elias sometimes found reasons to be near the stable when she came for her horse. They spoke carefully at first, about the weather, the cane, the river's height after rains. Then, slowly, about other things, the stars he watched from the quarters, the book she secretly kept under her mattress, the way the bayou looked at dusk when the fireflies rose. They both understood the danger. A single wrong glance, a word overheard, could mean the lash for him and ruin for her. Yet the conversations continued in stolen minutes behind the smokehouse or at the far end of the orchard. Elias told her, in careful fragments, of his mother sold away years earlier and of the stories older people whispered about the north, places where man might walk free. Clara listened, and the unease she had always felt hardened into something sharper, a refusal. By late summer, the refusal had become a plan. Clara's father spoke often of expanding the plantation and of the new railroads that were beginning to link distant towns. Travel by train was still uncommon and expensive, but possible for those with money and the right papers. Clara had both, or could obtain them. She began quietly saving what little money she could, sewing coins into the hem of an old dress. Elias, for his part, learned the routes of the riverboats and the names of free black men and sympathetic whites who sometimes helped people disappear. One October night, after a heavy rain had turned the roads to mud and kept most of the household inside, they met behind the old tobacco barn. The air smelled of wet earth and wood smoke. "I will not stay," Clara said. Her voice shook only a little. "Not in this house. Not while you remain in chains." Elias looked at her for a long time. "You know what they will say. What they will do if they catch us." "I know." She stepped closer. "But I also know I cannot live the life they have written for me. Not anymore." They chose a night when the master was away on business in New Orleans, and the overseer was known to drink heavily. Clara packed a small satchel with a change of clothes, the hidden coins, and a forged letter she had carefully written claiming she was traveling north to visit a distant relative. Elias carried nothing but the clothes on his back and a small knife. They left the plantation under cover of darkness, moving through the cane fields and along the bayou paths Elias knew by heart. By dawn they had reached a small landing where a free black boatman, paid with most of Clara's coins, took them partway upriver. From there they walked, hid, and walked again, avoiding the main roads. In a river town farther north, Clara used the remaining money and the forged letter to purchase 2 tickets on a northbound train. The cars were crowded with travelers, merchants, and families. Elias kept his head lowered and stayed close to her, playing the part of a servant accompanying his mistress. The risk was enormous. Any close inspection of papers or a chance recognition could end everything. Yet the train pulled out of the station, iron wheels grinding against the rails, and the Louisiana countryside began to fall away behind them. Days of tense travel followed, changing trains, sleeping in cheap boarding houses under assumed names, speaking little in public. They crossed into free states, then pressed farther still. The air grew colder. The accents changed. At last the tracks carried them across the border into Canada. In a small town in Upper Canada, far from the plantations and the laws that had once claimed them, they found a quiet room above a shop owned by a free black family who asked few questions. There, with a local minister who believed every soul stood equal before God, Elias and Clara were married. The ceremony was simple. No silk, no guests beyond the shopkeeper and his wife, only the 2 of them standing side by side as the words were spoken. Outside the small window, the Canadian autumn light fell across bare trees and a road that led nowhere they had ever known. Inside, for the first time, neither of them belonged to anyone else. They never returned south. In the years that followed, they built a modest life, Elias working with his hands, Clara teaching children to read in a small school for those who had also found freedom. The past remained with them, a shadow that never fully left, but it no longer held the power to decide their days. And so the story of the plantation, the cane fields, and the house with white columns became only a distant memory, carried quietly between 2 people who had chosen each other when the world said they could not. Lessons learned from the story of Elias and Clara, Louisiana, 1841. 1. Love and human connection can transcend the artificial barriers of race, class, and status. Elias and Clara's relationship grew despite the rigid hierarchy of the plantation system. Their quiet conversations and mutual recognition of each other's humanity showed that genuine bonds are not dictated by the social order imposed by others. 2. Courage and careful planning can create a path to freedom even under extreme oppression. Their escape required patience, resourcefulness, forged papers, knowledge of routes, and willingness to take enormous risks. Freedom was not granted. It was seized through deliberate action. 3. Inherited beliefs and systems can be questioned and rejected. Clara was raised to accept the plantation hierarchy as natural and divinely ordered, yet she listened, observed, and ultimately refused to live by those rules. Moral growth often begins with unease and leads to active refusal. 4. True freedom includes the right to choose one's own life and relationships. Both characters rejected the lives prescribed for them, Elias as property, Clara as a dutiful daughter of the system. Their marriage in Canada symbolized ownership of their own destinies. 5. Empathy and shared humanity are powerful forces against dehumanization. Small acts of seeing each other fully, Elias's quiet strength, Clara's secret reading and growing discomfort, built the foundation for their decision to leave. Systems of oppression depend on denying that shared humanity. 6. The past leaves lasting shadows, but it does not have to control the future. Even after reaching safety, the memory of the plantation remained. Yet they built a new life of work, teaching, and partnership. The story affirms that people can carry their history without remaining imprisoned by it. 7. Hope, even when fragile and dangerous, is essential for change. Whispers of the North, the possibility of free black communities, and the simple belief that another life was possible sustained them through fear and hardship. In short, the story illustrates that dignity, love, and the desire for freedom are universal, and that ordinary people can resist unjust systems through quiet determination, mutual support, and the willingness to risk everything for a life of their own choosing.